Hello. Hello, this is the Ashley Corinne, and I'm making this video about Anton LaVey. And for anyone who is unaware, this is Anton LaVey. He was the founder of the Church of Satan. He wrote the Satanic Bible. And, you know, I mean, I'll just say it. Oh, by the way, there's Hecate right there. But, you know, I mean, people must think I'm a Satanist because I've mentioned Anton LaVey in the Satanic Bible in at least a couple of my videos. I don't really know exactly how many. But, you know, so I'm making this video to address a couple of things. First of all, I'm not a Satanist. I guess I would call myself an independent Wiccan, because I don't really, you know, I don't really associate myself with any particular Wiccan path, but I guess I would be considered a Wiccan in the purest or most basic sense of the term. But this book was a huge inspiration for me. In fact, this book was basically my initiation into the craft. And for anyone who is unaware of who Anton LaVey was and what he stood for, he was an agnostic, or probably not agnostic, he was actually atheist. He was an atheist who basically studied witchcraft and put it all into a religion, and this was the you know, the text, the canonical text of that, or whatever. But I was really influenced by this book, so much so that if you watch my other video, the 4 goddesses that I call upon normally, not including Sophia, the Gnostic goddess, but 3 of those I realized are named in the infernal names, which is basically a list of devils, of ancient devils. First of all, we have Hecate, Greek goddess of the underworld and witchcraft. We also have Lilith, Hebrew female devil, Adam's first wife, who taught him the ropes. And then Proserpine, also known as Persephone or Kor, Greek queen of the underworld. Now, of the 4 goddesses that I call upon, the only one missing is Diana, but she could have easily been included in the infernal names because of her her connection to witchcraft and all that. But I mean, really, you know, like, Anton LaVey was basically a materialistic pagan philosopher practitioner. He practiced magic, he taught magic, he professed to the power of magic, but he didn't believe in God. He didn't even believe in Satan, or what he thought of as Satan was, you know, it was like the archetype in his mind of what he would like to be. you know, it's hard to say Anton LaVey among anyone who knows who he is without getting a couple of sour looks from people, especially among Wiccans, because he hated Wiccans. Like, he saw Wiccans as being just like no better than Christians. Of course, I don't espouse this view, and I do believe in God. But, you know, I mean, I'll suggest this book to anyone. Atheist, theist, agnostic, Wiccan, Christian, anybody. Because I think it makes a lot of really good points. Of course, it's not everyone's cup of tea, because it does tend towards the darker side of things, but, you know, basically, I think that anyone who is serious about the practice of magic should at least give it a read. You know? Because, like I said, reading this book was really my initiation into the craft. Before I read this book, I had never practiced magic. And after I read this book, in this book, he gives a very basic explanation of how to use magic. And so I took the principles that he outlines in this book, and I put them to use. And they worked. You know, it's magic. I mean, I'm not saying this is the one book that teaches you how to do magic, but I'm saying it's a good book. But you know, and he does talk trash on Wiccans in this book, and he does talk trash on Thelemites, or you know, followers of the Crowleyan path. And so I can see why a lot of people wouldn't want to read this, but you know, you should be able to get past that. But you know, that doesn't look much different than that. I mean, the star. I mean, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, that's a good star," and then you turn it upside down, and they're like, "Oh, that's a bad star." And then you turn it around, and they're like, "Oh, that's a good star." And you turn it around, and they're like, "Oh, that's a bad star." You see what I'm saying? It's all about orientation. Anyways. Let's see. Oh, this is the book. Pardon me. There we go. The Book of Belial, the Mastery of the Earth. And if you do read this book, you have to understand one thing about Anton LaVey, is he's a showman, okay? So he talks about, or the way he talks, or the way he writes, I should say, in this book, it's very sensationalistic, and he does it to get attention. But he was a very rational individual, and people who knew him talked about how he was a gentleman, and he didn't sacrifice babies or animals.
Blah, Satan.